Welcome back to Conservative Direct. Think this year's Republican National Convention has been history-making? Today, we're looking back on one of the wildest Republican National Conventions of all time, the 1964 Republican National Convention. This event was a turning point in American political history and marked the rise of the modern conservative movement within the Republican Party. And we ask, are we in the midst of another realignment like 1964? But first, let's set the scene in 1964. President Kennedy had been assassinated in Dallas that November, and the Republicans had taken a pause in active campaigning out of respect. The party gathered in San Francisco, California, and it was a battleground of ideas and ideologies that had been simmering within the Republican Party. The Republican Party was not always the home of the conservatives. In 1964, the party was deciding exactly what it stood for. At the heart of the convention was the nomination of Senator Barry Goldwater from Arizona. First elected in 1952, he quickly gained a reputation for his conservative views and opposition to New Deal policies. He was a businessman and pilot in World War II, contributing to his image as a rugged individualist and staunch advocate of limited government. His 1960 book, The Conscience of a Conservative, had inspired enough Republicans to secure him the presidential nomination. Goldwater's acceptance speech is legendary for its bold declaration: "Extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice, and moderation in the pursuit of justice is no virtue." You've probably heard the quote before. This line encapsulated the fervor and uncompromising stance of the conservative wing. Listen to this section in his speech and see if you can hear echoes of today's conservative movement. "The good Lord raised this mighty republic to be a home for the brave and to flourish as the land of the free, not to stagnate in the swampland of collectivism, not to cringe before the bully of communism. Now, my fellow Americans, the tide has been running against freedom. Our people have followed false prophets. We must, and we shall, return to proven ways, not because they are old, but because they are true. We must, and we shall, set the tides running again in the cause of freedom." And this party, with its every action, every word, every breath, and every heartbeat, has but a single resolve, and that is freedom. Freedom made orderly for this nation by our constitutional government. Freedom under a government limited by the laws of nature and of nature's God. Freedom balanced so that order lacking liberty will not become the slavery of the prison cell. Balanced so that liberty lacking order will not become the license of the mob and of the jungle. Now, we Americans understand freedom. We have earned it, we have lived for it, and we have died for it. This nation and its people are freedom's model in a searching world. We can be freedom's missionaries in a doubting world. But ladies and gentlemen, first we must renew freedom's vision in our own hearts and in our own homes. In fact, his complaints about the current leaders could be in a convention speech today. Rather than useful jobs in our country, our people have been offered bureaucratic make-work rather than moral leadership. They have been given bread and circuses, they have been given spectacles, and yes, they have even been given scandals. Tonight there is violence in our streets, corruption in our highest offices, aimlessness amongst our youth, anxiety among our elders, and there is a virtual despair among the many who look beyond material success for the inner meaning of their lives. And where examples of morality should be set, the opposite is seen. Small men, seeking great wealth or power, have too often and too long turned even the highest levels of public service into mere personal opportunity. Now certainly simple honesty is not too much to demand of men in government. We find it in most. Republicans demand it from everyone. They demand it from everyone no matter how exalted or protected his position might be. The growing menace in our country tonight to personal safety, to life, to limb and property, in homes, in churches, on the playgrounds, in places of business, particularly in our great cities, is the mounting concern, or should be, of every thoughtful citizen in the United States. Security from domestic violence, no less than from foreign aggression, is the most elementary and fundamental purpose of any government. And a government that cannot fulfill this purpose is one that cannot long command the loyalty of its citizens. History shows us, demonstrates that nothing prepares the way for tyranny more than the failure of public officials to keep the streets safe from bullies and marauders. How did the moderate Republicans react to his bold speech? The conservative and moderate factions within the party were at each other's throats. The convention was a showcase of intense ideological clashes. Governor Nelson Rockefeller, representing the moderate wing, experienced the hostility firsthand. Some cautioned Rockefeller to refrain from speaking for his own safety. He refused to back down. During his speech, Rockefeller was booed and heckled by Goldwater supporters. In his speech, Rockefeller condemned extremism and intolerance, stating, "These extremists feed on fear, hate, and terror. They encourage disunity. We cannot, and we must not, and we shall not permit the emblem of irresponsibility to attach to the party of Lincoln and of liberty."
Boo! Get off the stage!
This is not what our party stands for.
The atmosphere was charged, with emotions running high on both sides. The divide within the Republican Party was more evident than ever. The platform adopted at the convention was a clear reflection of Goldwater's conservative principles. It called for a stronger stance against the Soviet Union, opposed civil rights legislation, and advocated for limited government intervention in the economy. The platform and the nomination of Goldwater marked a significant shift in the party's direction. Media coverage of the convention painted a picture of a deeply divided Republican Party. The chaotic and contentious nature of the event was broadcast across the nation, contributing to the public's perception of the GOP as fractured. This division was a significant factor in Goldwater's landslide defeat to incumbent President Lyndon B. Johnson in the general election. Despite the short-term loss, the 1964 convention had a profound long-term impact. It laid the groundwork for the conservative movement that would come to dominate the Republican Party. Goldwater's campaign and the ideological battles of the convention set the stage for future conservative leaders like Ronald Reagan, who would go on to win the presidency in 1980. The conservatives won the convention, but lost the election. Yet their new, bold vision allowed them to win the party and the nation for the next decade. To sum it up, the 1964 Republican National Convention was a defining moment in American political history. It was a clash of ideologies, a showcase of the growing conservative movement, and a harbinger of the future direction of the Republican Party. Will the 2024 Republican Convention be remembered the same way? Is the Trump-Vance ticket the beginning of a new alignment in the Republican Party? Is the future of the party more Amber Rose and less Mike Pence? We want to know your thoughts. Weigh in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the wildest Republican National Convention of all time, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Conservative Direct for more unapologetically conservative content. Stay informed, stay conservative, and stay tuned.